quick program note. We got about 5 minutes before we're going to get started. So get yourself some coffee and donuts and come have a seat.
We're going to get started in another minute or so. If you want to start taking your seats.
Right at 9 o'clock exactly. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Woo! Thanks so much for being here. It's Earth Day. I got a free ride on a Metro bus. Did anyone else? It's also Torch's second birthday today. So we're having a birthday party. I hope you all got these donuts. Thank you to California Donuts. I was like very emotional. They're so good. This is my dream birthday cake, actually, just this. But thanks so much all for being here. My name's Alyssa Walker. I have a newsletter called Torched, writing about the mega events that are coming. Did you know that we're hosting a bunch of these things? Like, they're coming. And it's getting closer and closer, and transportation is a key part of that. So I'm always happy to pop up here at Data Donuts when Vicki goes out of town on her random jaunts to fill in as MC. And I'm supposed to go through these slides, the one you can already see. So let's do a little icebreaker or icing breaker. I'm going to put this down in a second. I'm not going to hold it the whole time. But quickly introduce yourself to someone you don't yet know and discuss a data set you wish existed, something non-data related that taught you how to think about data, or what's a problem in LA to solve first if you had all the data you needed. Take a moment, please, with someone around you. Okay, anyone want to share? You guys are still chatting away. I know, right? It's all the donuts, they're like. All right, who wants to share? I know you guys are still actively chatting. There's a lot of problems to solve. I get it. Does anyone want to share something? Yes, right here. Sidewalk inventory. I saw something in the budget just this week that said we are doing a sidewalk inventory. So how about that? It's for real. Anyone else want to share?
Buying power of the cyclist community.
Ooh, love it. Anyone else want to share? One more. Any problems? We solved all the problems. That's it. Okay, great. Okay, please note the presentation is being live streamed, hello, and recorded. At the end of the presentation, the recording will end, just so you know. This is, how many of you, is this your first time being to a Data and Donut? Oh, whoa! Okay, so I do need to read this slide. This is a breakfast lecture series that's been hosted since 2017, showcasing government projects, providing a space for government technologists to come together to share concerns or knowledge or build connections. And it's also just a great excuse to come into Lacey and see all the cool things that are happening here. Thank you to Lacey for hosting and providing this space. And as you're walking out, people will be working here. People do actually have jobs and come here every day. So as you're going out, please be respectful. Some events coming up. WTS International Conference focusing on women in transportation. Yeah. And then the next Data and Donuts. Ooh, Department of Education. Whoa. I'm glad I don't have to moderate that one. Okay. And there's also jobs that are always being posted. These look like some good ones. So check out these amazing job boards and get what you need if it's a job. All right, I am so excited to introduce our folks here today from LADOT. I don't need to give them much I don't need to give LADOT an introduction for this crowd, but this project, I think, is one of the most exciting things that's happening. It's happening kind of all over the world and all over the United States, but I think the most exciting iteration of it is happening right here in LA, where people try to tell you, we can't do this stuff. No one will ever do this. We can't change behavior. We can't fix these problems. And this is one way to do it. So welcome to Nataly and Jillian. Take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Alyssa, for that introduction. My name is Nataly Rios Gutierrez. I'm a transportation planner at DOT, and I'm happy to be here today with my colleague, Jillian Gallard. We're both transportation planners in the strategic planning team at DOT. Thank you to Data Donuts for hosting us. We're very excited to share LADOT's work towards universal basic mobility with you today. So for today's talk, we'll first introduce universal basic mobility. I'm sure a lot of you might be familiar with it, but we want to just set the ground about where the idea comes from and why it matters in Los Angeles. Then Jillian will dive into the South LA pilot, what we've tested, how we evaluated, and what we learned so far. Finally, I'll return to share how we're embedding UBM beyond the South LA pilot into our capital planning process through the Mobility Action Plan, and then we'll have some time for questions and comments. So first, I want to get started with where universal basic mobility comes from and how it's shaped LADOT's work. The term itself is relatively new, but the ideas behind UBM are not. At its heart, this is about transportation equity and ensuring people can get where they need to go. The term universal basic mobility has used by LADOT first emerged in 2018 in an article published by City Lab, where it was described as a mobility safety net. It is inspired by two concepts. The first is universal basic income, or UBI. This is the idea that giving people flexible, unrestricted resources can help reduce poverty and increase access to opportunity. The second concept that influenced UBM is mobility as a service. This was really popular, in the second half of the 2010s. It was the idea that on focusing on making transportation options like transit, scooters, ride-hailing more seamlessly available for people. So these two ideas were applied in UBM to provide transportation by offering a mix of services, programs, infrastructure, and at times direct subsidies so that people can get where they need to go and they can choose the option that best suits them. And together, this is how we get to UBM, has a system that provides people with a reliable foundation for getting around to support economic opportunity and improve quality of life. So now that we've talked about what UBM is, the next question is why it matters. I'm sure for a lot of you this is not new, but at its core, UBM is about breaking barriers that keep people from getting where they need to go. Things like cost, distance, safety, and infrastructure all shape whether people can actually reach the places they need to go. They might, when those barriers are too high, people have to make hard trade-offs. They might miss a job interview, delay a doctor's visit, or skip seeing a loved one because the trip is too expensive, too far away, or just doesn't feel safe. In Los Angeles, and not everyone, and we know that not everyone experiences these barriers the same way. They have a greater impact on low-income communities, communities of color, people with disability, and older adults. In Los Angeles, we see this gap of opportunity very clearly. Someone who drives and has access to a car, an ability to drive, can reach 50 times as many jobs within an hour as someone relying on transit. So this isn't just about transportation, it's about whether people can actually access opportunities and services they need in their daily lives to participate in civic life. And with that, I'll pass it on to Jillian, who will talk about how UBM South LA pilot is tackling these challenges.
Thanks, Nataly. All right, so let's get into the South LA pilot. So in 2019, through an extensive community engagement and data-driven process where we focused on meeting the greatest transportation needs, we defined a UBM project area and identified a great new opportunity for funding through the California Air Resources Board called the Sustainable Transportation Equity Project, or STEP. The red shaded areas in this map qualify as SB 535 disadvantaged communities, and the yellow outline is the boundary of the CARB STEP funded UBM pilot. The project area encompasses much of South Los Angeles. It extends to about the 10 freeway in the north, Florence Avenue to the south, Alameda to the east, and Crenshaw to the west. Our STEP grant application was successful, and in 2021 we were awarded $13.8 million by CARB to kick off the pilot. So the UBM pilot is designed to reduce transportation barriers through new projects and services. Here you can see all of the UBM pilot projects, including services like an on-demand shuttle and an e-bike lending library, as well as complementary infrastructure like quick builds and EV chargers. We also understood that transportation affordability is a huge component of freedom of mobility, and we sought to address this through direct transportation subsidies and investment in workforce development to support institutions like LACI and LATTC that provide certification and career development in industries that support zero emissions transportation. Today, the UBM program has grown to a $30 million investment in South LA through additional state grants, contributions from our UBM partners, and from the city. We set the following goals for the pilot: improve access to key destinations, address transportation needs, reduce VMT and GHG, and improve economic and health outcomes. The first three are aligned with the goals of CARB's STEP program, and the metrics that we used largely originated from CARB. But during our planning, we added another goal to improve economic and health outcomes. As we heard earlier, so many more jobs are reachable in LA by car than by transit. And I think we can all agree that LA transportation in general is commonly associated with stress. So now I'm going to highlight a couple of the UBM projects and the data that we have with those goals in mind. If you have heard about UBM before today, you likely associate it with a transportation subsidy or wallet. In our pilot, we call it a mobility wallet. This program, being implemented by LA Metro, provided 2,000 low-income residents of South LA with $1,800 over 12 months to spend on shared transportation. This includes public transit, ride-hailing, bike share, and scooters. The project has been implemented in 2 phases of 1,000 people each, and the data that I have for you today is from the first phase, as the second phase is still going on and is expected to end in June. The mobility wallet is a prepaid debit card. This is a widely accepted payment method, giving the participants the flexibility to use it more broadly than a transit pass. And we're evaluating this program through surveys, interviews, transaction data, and soon some trip data. So breaking down our data into our goals. We saw participants successfully purchase many thousands of trips, and through surveys we know that this helped them to reach the places that they need and want to go. The predominant modes that people use were transit and ride-hail. A note here, ride-hail accounts for about 40% of the trips taken, but it represents over 80% of the total spend since ride-hail trips cost so much more than transit. In speaking to people about this, we know that they would use their own funds to load the tap card and take transit and save the mobility wallet for ride-hail in some cases. So in phase 2, we're looking more closely at the use of ride-hail through expanded survey questions, travel diaries, and giving people the option to share their Uber and Waymo trip data. With the data that we have collected from phase 1, we confirmed more frequent travel for childcare, school, and social visits. Participants also overwhelmingly reported improved affordability and reliability in meeting their daily needs. So one of the paradoxes presented by the STEP goals and the on-the-ground conditions in Los Angeles is that income restricts travel. So people who are lower income produce fewer VMT, and freedom of travel produces more equitable outcomes. Mobility wallet users were facing restricted travel. 36% had no car, and 52% were not licensed. And phase 1 findings suggest that ride-hail is filling an essential mobility gap for predominantly transit users. In terms of economic and health outcomes, UCLA interviews highlighted reduced financial stress and increased independence, and UC Davis found a statistically significant increase in transportation security using their Transportation Security Index, which is a validated measure of the experience of being unable to regularly move from place to place in a safe or timely manner because of a lack of resources. There's a lot of rich data and analysis still to come on this project, and I actually highly recommend that Metro, UCLA, and UC Davis come to do a Data and Donuts on just this, maybe once the phase 2 has wrapped. But today we're focusing on the overall UBM pilot, and the next project that I want to highlight is the e-bike lending library known as South Central Power Up. Lacey has been the lead implementation partner in this project since the beginning, and they brought on key bike and transportation advocacy groups active in South Central to launch and operate an e-bike lending library. People for Mobility Justice, the Strategy Center, Trust South LA, Scope, Community Services Unlimited, and local bike shops Ride On and Ride With Us make up South Central Power Up, or SCPU. They manage a fleet of 250 e-bikes available for long-term rentals to the community for free. Participants complete a pre-survey that asks demographic questions and questions about transportation patterns, vehicle ownership, and unmet transportation needs, and they complete an exit survey when they return their bike. The bikes themselves log mileage and trips, which sounds very simple, but SCPU knows that this was a real technological challenge that they worked tirelessly to resolve, and they gave us something that was both user-friendly and provided us with the data that we needed. So let's take a look at the data and our UBM goals. South Central Power Up has been very successful in retaining its user base to the point where we have almost no exit surveys. So the survey data that we have is the pre-survey, where users told us what their expectations were, which included top destinations they'd reach with their e-bikes, such as school, work, running errands, and other essential services like the train. In terms of their transportation needs, SCPU users expect reduced travel times, simplified trip planning, and reduced costs. The chart shows the total miles traveled by month. We started at 571 miles in the first month of the program, and in February of this year, we logged 2,700 miles. So while we don't have many exit surveys, we know that the bikes are getting used because of the trip and mileage logs, and because the program keeps in touch with its users regularly. Some SCPU users stated in their pre-surveys that they plan to shift from taking their car to riding an e-bike, expecting to spend less on gas and parking. Others expected to spend less on public transit and ride-hailing. The program has logged over 23,000 trips. On average, this is about 170 trips per bike, and the average trip length is just under 2 miles. But a relatively small number of bikes represent a disproportionate number of trips and miles. More users don't necessarily translate into more miles. So we'll be working with the program operators to analyze the exit surveys and the feedback to gain more insight into what we're seeing with this bike data. When people told us what their expected uses for the bike were, 71% of those expected uses were for work or commuting. One user even reported being able to get a job directly because of this program. Other key benefits cited were increased fitness, improved mental health, and better access to medical appointments. So we're highlighting the e-bike library and the mobility wallet despite having other great UBM projects in the interest of time. But also these two projects are by far the most well-documented projects of the pilot, and immense credit for that is due to the project teams of South Central Power Up and Mobility Wallet for very thoughtfully considering not only the requirements of the CARB STEP grant, but what data and evaluation would help improve these projects. Even with varying degrees of data quality, we have collected quite a bit of data, and largely have shown that people who participated in our projects benefited from having more transportation choices. All projects meet at least one of the project goals, but for some projects we can see a general impact as opposed to measurable individual impacts. Progress was made toward all project goals, but it was quickly apparent that trying to reduce VMT through programs designed to improve the lives of those who are facing transportation barriers is a challenge. Also important to note is that the pilot is ongoing and we continue to collect and analyze data. But based on what we do know, what do we think is needed to scale UBM? Of course, more funding and staffing will be needed for expansion. And the pilot looked to, and from a data perspective, I guess I should say, the pilot looked to provide an ecosystem of interconnected mobility projects. This sounds like mobility as a service, an underlying idea of UBM as we heard earlier. And it is similar, but rather than promoting mobility through a user-side trip planning app with a limited number of services, we prioritize providing greater choice in travel options. For future, can we incorporate the principles of interconnectedness while preserving choice by considering how we'll evaluate interconnection in the project design and planning phase? We also needed a citywide needs assessment and to refine the definition of UBM and the goals that guided the pilot using this data, and to concentrate on our strengths and achieve ever better results. These last two items, Nataly has been doing extensive work on, and I'll hand it back to her now to talk more about that.
Great. Thank you, Jillian. So yes, we heard that the South LA pilot has been exploring what UBM means in practice, testing different programs and services, what works. We've learned a lot about what works and how we can help reduce transportation barriers and improve access. But something that also became clear is that we need to be implementing our vision for UBM, not just in a pilot, but across the department. So to do that, we developed a UBM framework to help us understand, to help us make sure that all of our projects and services are working towards this goal. Today I'm going to talk about one of these ways that we're expanding UBM to other parts of the department with capital planning. So I'll talk about the Mobility Action Plan and how we're using it to guide and prioritize transportation investments across the city. The Mobility Action Plan, or MAP, is the city's process for planning and prioritizing transportation investments over time. It includes a citywide inventory, a 5-year transportation plan starting fiscal year 2028, and a longer-term strategy looking at about 20 years. The goal is to create a unified approach to how we invest in transportation in the public right-of-way in the city, and to ensure that those decisions are aligned with our goals like improving access, safety, sustainability, and equity. And that, it's important to note that this is not just about LADOT's planning. It's about helping shape transportation investments across the city. The Mobility Action Plan, grounded in UBM principles, is intended to serve as a transportation chapter of the city's capital improvement program, helping align and coordinate investments across departments. So now, how did we embed universal basic mobility into the Mobility Action Plan? The first way we're trying to embed this is through our guiding principles for investment. Universal basic mobility sets a clear standard, making sure Angelinos can safely, affordably, and reliably get where they need to go. The mobility plan, through engagement and other work, turned that goal into 3 principles, which include health and safety, connectivity, and equity. These principles will help us compare projects and prioritize the ones that do the most to improve access and reduce barriers. While right now I don't have the measurements for you since we're still in the middle of the project, we'll be excited to have that available for you in the future. In addition to the guiding principles, we also wanted to make sure that we were thinking about UBM in how we plan our engagement for the project. So to do this, we wanted to understand where transportation need was most concentrated across the city. So we use what we've learned from the UBM pilot and what we know from years of research about what creates barriers to travel in LA to create a transportation equity index. This index started with the city's community health and equity index from the Health Atlas. It already includes information about socioeconomic challenges that people face, transportation access, such as like existing bike infrastructure, and also collision and safety data. However, we realized that there was some key transportation elements missing from this. So we augmented the index with adding information about car access, job access in transit compared to driving, and transportation cost burden. This helps us understand where there's the biggest economic need, but also better understand the different levels of transportation access that communities across LA have. We aggregated this data at the census tract level, and then we did the calculations at the census tract level, and then aggregated the data to neighborhoods to define equity priority areas. So what you see on the screen of the second map are the 5 equity areas that we focus our in-person engagement for the first phase of the Mobility Action Plan. And while we're still evaluating the results from the engagement, we did see that through these efforts, we were able to reach a way more diverse set of participation. Our online survey mostly ended up getting responses from like wider, wealthier individuals. And by focusing in these neighborhoods, we were able to get a lot of like mono Spanish speakers, people with low incomes, people with disabilities, with different housing statuses. So this is another way in which we're trying to embed UBM into how we do capital planning. We'll also be using this Transportation Equity Index to highlight the areas of the city with the highest needs as we prioritize which projects the city invests in. Now, finally, we also want to make sure that we're investing UBM in how we measure progress for our investments. So while this is still a future process, we first need to get the Mobility Action Plan approved and completed. But at high level, UBM is about ensuring people can safely, affordably, and reliably reach the job, services, and daily activities they need. But measuring that is complex. Currently, we have 2 tools. The first, the Transportation Security Index, which Jillian talked about, which is a survey that can help us understand how much security or insecurity someone has. The second is access to jobs and destinations. So we're able to look at access to jobs and destinations with data analysis, such as doing connectivity analysis, to see how a change in the network, such as adding a bike lane, increases someone's access to jobs, education, groceries, and more. So right now we use these tools for individual projects, but the goal with our capital planning process would be to create a more standardized approach in how we evaluate the outcomes of our projects in improving our UBM goal of access to destinations and improving transportation security. So yes, once we have the Mobility Action Plan removed, we'll be working to define what foundation mobility threshold means. So understanding, setting a goal for the city for what is baseline level mobility is. We'll also work to develop a process for tracking system-wide progress towards foundation level mobility over time. And finally, the big goal would be to standardize how we evaluate and compare investments. Right now, a lot of the comparison is based on how it changes the network, but not necessarily how it's impacting people's ability to get where they need to go. So yes, with that, I'll wrap up and just invite you to visit our Mobility Action Plan at LADOT website. You can scan the QR code. If you scroll to the bottom, you can sign up to get updates about the project. Soon we'll be sharing how we recently wrapped up our phase 1 engagement, and we'll be sharing more in the coming months on how that input is shaping priorities and investment decisions. As this work moves forward, we'll send updates at key moments so that you can be informed and make sure that you're getting your voice heard about the future of capital investments in the city. And with that, I want to say thank you on behalf of Jillian and myself for your time we appreciate the chance to share the progress and the work that LADOT is doing towards UBM, from how we define it, what we learned from the pilot, and how we can use data to understand its impact in guiding future decisions. And with that, I'll close out. Thank you so much.